Hey, guten Tag, everyone. Good to see you here today. Welcome to our another weekly Sunday stream, and we're finally being able to do part 2 of today of our Berlin City Tour series. And we're back here at Berlin Brandenburg Airport, currently the main international airport for Berlin. It's good to see you guys here. And before we get started with the flight plan, I want to say hello to the chat. Super Typhon, great to see you here. Yes, the internet is better. I think I know what caused the issue. Sim Toolkit Pro must have caused the issue. Super Typhon. So, though that being said, I'm still wanting to wait to see where everything's going. And then it's also great to see you, Sergeant Staff. Great to see you, my good friend. Give him a shout out. Yeah, it's it's Sim Toolkit Pro. That probably caused the issue. Because so far I'm doing really good with the frames. And Devil Dude, good to see you. They might need to update the issues. I know. But the reason I had to have SimToolkit Pro was to keep track of my stats. Maybe I need to do, maybe I need to add Flight Sim Live back. So I might have to do that. I'm doing great. So we're gonna take the little ultralight again. We're gonna take the top rudder solo for today's flight. Reason is we got so many not Volanta. I don't think Volanta offers a streaming thing though. I don't know if Volanta has something for streaming. I know Flight Sim Live does it. That's something that does streaming. But yeah, I'm doing well, my friend. So we're gonna go back here and get this plane started. Battery. Put this and turn this on. Turn everything on. Started. So we're just gonna get back up. If you guys want to join them on East Jesse server, this plane is usually pretty. Oh, it's this plane. Yeah, it's this little ultralight. I'm not taking the top rudder for today because that's a little bit too fast for today. And plus, we're going through so many landmarks here in Berlin that a slower plane would actually be better for this flight today. Because, as you know, Berlin has tons of landmarks around the city, and I put so many of those that if I did, you can't get even Volanta to Twitch. Really? I might have to do that for the future. I guess I might have to do it at some point for on Volanta at some point. Gotcha. I might have to do that next time, tracking on Volanta and see if that works. But yeah, so far everything's looking good with the frames. Everything's looking really good. I don't know if settings are paid only. I think it's free. I managed to integrate SimBrief to my account. I don't think I paid for that. Double dude. But actually, before I got going, I forgot to tell you guys about the flight plan. So let's go over today's flight plan. I forgot to mention it to you guys. I'm so sorry. I'm so eager to get in the air now that all my frames are working. What you're looking for. So here it is. Today's flight plan is going to take off from Berlin-Brandenburg. We're going to go visit. We're going to visit all around Berlin, but we're going to visit Stadion unter Alten Forststraße. Then visit the German-Russian Museum over here. Then once we visit this area, we'll be heading to Spree Park, Berlin. We're going to visit the unusual Dialect Amusement Park. Then we're going to visit the Soviet Memorial here at Treptow Park. From there, we cross the Spree River into the Stasi Museum, museum dedicated to the Stasi, the infamous police force of East Germany. Then from there, we're going to visit the Mercedes-Benz Arena in Berlin, the main arena here in Berlin. Then we're going to visit the East Side Gallery, which is home to a section of the Berlin Wall that used to divide Berlin for all those years. Then from there, we're going to pay a visit to the famous Tempelhof Airport, which is now turned into a park, but we're gonna fly over that today. And I may even land there a little bit and tell you all about Tempelhof, why it's such an important airfield. Then from there, we'll visit the German Museum of Technology. We're gonna visit the Story Bunker. We're gonna in the Willy Brandt House, political party headquarters. Then we're gonna visit the Jewish Museum of Berlin, the German Jewish Museum. Then we're going to visit the infamous Checkpoint Charlie, one of the most important meeting points between East and West Germany. Then we're going to visit the Topography of Terror in a preserved strip of the Berlin Wall again, Berliner Mauer. Then we're going to visit one of the famous streets of the Potsdamer Platz. Then from here, we'll go ahead and go around this area. We're going to visit the Gendar Market, which contains quite a few little cathedrals and landmarks. Then we're going to visit the famous Strashofer unter den Linden Opera House, a very famous opera house. Then we're going to visit Humboldt University in Germany. We're going to visit the famed Berlin. We're going to visit the Nicholas-Rye Church, St. Nicholas, one of the oldest churches in Berlin. The Socialist Alley of Karl Marx Alley. Then we're going to visit Volkspark. Then we're going to visit Max Sheehan Hall, Versailles, Berlin, in the sports park around here. Go back down to Alexanderplatz, the famous town square. Then we're going to visit the famous Berlin Television Tower, one of the tall structures in Germany, the Red Town Hall. We're going to visit the Berliner Dom Cathedral. Then we visit Museum Island, a UNESCO World Heritage Site featuring tons of museums as well, including the famous Bode Museum of Byzantine Collection. Then from there, we'll be visiting quite a few other areas. Then we're going to visit the Berlin Holocaust Memorial. We'll be flying over that. Then, of course, the world famous Brandenburg Gate here in Berlin. Then the Reichstag. Going across this island a bit. Visit the German National History Museum. Then we'll be visiting Berlin Hauptbahnhof, the central station here in Berlin. Go across to the House of World Culture. Visit Bellevue Palace. The Scholz Museum, the first LGBT museum. The Berlin Zoo, world famous Berlin Zoo. Go across the river, visit the Charlottenburg Palace. Then go across back to Spree, make another stop here at Tegel, at Berlin Tegel, and then from here we'll be actually heading to Potsdam. We'll visit Spandau Citadel, Olympia Stadium Berlin, cross through the Havel River, meet our way to Cieselenhof. This is where they met for the Potsdam Conference during World War II that determined the fate of future of Europe. Then we visit quite a few other places, including the New Palace, Charlottenhof Palace, Sansui, quite a few gates, Brandenburg Gate here in Potsdam, Noir Tor, and finally the world famous Babelsberg Studio and indoor flight here at Saarmund. Hey, Scruffy Tam, good to see you. Sorry, I was too busy looking at the map to do the chat. Scruffy Tam, good to see you, my good friend. Let's give Scruffy Tam a shout out. This dude's awesome. If you guys haven't checked out Scruffy Tam, oh yeah, it's actually online. Yes, it is correct. And by the way, on my Discord, guys, I actually have the PowerPoint slides posted in my Discord. Oh yeah, it's going to be a complete tour of Berlin. And you get to go, and we're also going to visit Potsdam too. So it's going to be the complete tour of Berlin and Potsdam too. So yeah, it's going to be a complete tour of Berlin. In fact, I had to add nearly 60 plus slides to the slideshow on my Discord. It's going to be a great flight, and I'll give you guys the best of my ability. Oh, Janis Joplin. Yeah, it's great to see you guys so much. So yeah, I think I figured out what was wrong with my computer so far, according to all. It wasn't my internet screwing up. It was actually SimToolkit Pro. That was what was wrong with my thing. That was what's causing those lagging issues. It wasn't my internet. It was SimToolkit Pro. So I need to download a new flight tracking software. Maybe until they fix it. Until they fix it for the next update. Because that's what's been causing all those issues. So. Go ahead and take off here. So if you guys want to join me, I'm on East USA. Let me go ahead and play some bit of music if you guys are interested. Let's play some good old classic. Yeah. Let's play some good old classical music, because, you know, I love listening to... It's the music I play a lot with streams. like I said, now I don't have the Paywar scenery for this. I know Aerosoft just made a Paywar of this. So if I do Flights to Berlin, I could get the Paywar scenery. But yeah, thank you guys so much for joining me on today's stream. Oh yeah, it's gonna be a great flight today. Yeah, I always love doing these city tours. Plus it expands my knowledge a bit. And so yeah. So far everything's looking good. No frames dropped yet. So far so good. I'm very happy to hear. So we're gonna head to our first stop for today. The first destination for today, PY. This is Stadion aan de Alten Forestry, or English terms, stadium at the Old Foresters House. It's a football stadium located here in Kopernik, part of the Berlin metropolitan area. It is the largest single-purpose football stadium here in Berlin. The other stadiums in Berlin, Olympia Stadium, is for multi-purpose, but this is built just for football. It's been home to FC Union Berlin of Bundesliga. It's full runner since its opening back in 1920. It was redeveloped in 2009 and expanded again in 2013. Some of the major development work has been carried out by 2,300 of the Union Berlin supporters. During matches, it has a seat capacity of around 22,000 fans, though most of the ground is for terrace seating. So it's actually been developed in quite a few phases since its opening. And they've really transformed it from an older stadium to now a pretty modern facility. And it's actually a PUI landmark in Microsoft Flight Simulator, by the way, so we can take a look at it. I'll follow along, but busy with our stuff. We'll be watching. Hey, no worries, Scruffy Tam. So it's great to have you on stream with me today. I appreciate all you guys here in chat, and also that you guys are lurking too. Thank you guys so much for coming along. So yeah, everything's looking good. I haven't dropped a single frame yet. So yeah, everything's looking good. Everything's going really smoothly. I guess if I didn't have Cintuka Pro, I would have actually gone with the Ostrich stream with what's left. You guys, I hope you guys had a good weekend. I hope you all had a great weekend. I mean, so far everything's going good. I know Friday I had that Oster stream. It was kind of laggy towards the end, but I guess I should have known Cintuka Pro was causing those problems. So stadium is actually located a bit further ahead. There's the stadium right here. Also, if you guys hear it for the first time, I do have a Discord link. You can press my Discord, and you guys can actually the link into my Discord. Oh yeah, Janice Joplin wants to visit the Mercedes-Benz Museum. Well, the Mercedes-Benz Museum is all the way in Stuttgart, Stuttgart, I mean. Oh, that's awesome to hear, Sergeant Staff. You had a fantastic weekend. Awesome. So So there's definitely some pretty interesting news on the last couple days. Just Flight had a brand new announcement they made. They made the successor to the 146. Remember the BA 146 in the sim? Well, they now release they're going to announce their real life successor to it, the Avro RJ. The BA Avro RJ, the successor to the which is the successor to the 146. They just announced it today with more powerful engines in a slightly more modern cockpit. So basically 146, but with a bit of a more modern cockpit and such. And it's going to come with 3 variants, the RJ70, RJ85, and RJ100. So they announced that, which is going to be pretty interesting to see how they do with the Avro. And then, yeah, I think 2 days ago, Gotfriends released the trailer for their Wilga, which is a Polish stolt plane from Poland. Okay, I was making sure photogrammetry and all that were on. They're staying on the forest. I thought it was a PY landmark. So here's the Steam Island of Forest. Unfortunately, it doesn't show anything. I'm going to attempt to shorten the flight plan a little bit by taking out some of the unnecessary routes we're going to be taking. They streamed it for an hour. Oh, Milviz was streaming. Oh, okay. Oh, the ATR. But here's the most exciting news that I think I'm excited for. You know me, I'm not much of an Airbus guy, by the way. I'm more of a Boeing guy. However, a plane that I'm very excited is actually fly-by-wire. They're currently making the mighty Airbus A380, and I saw some of their screenshots, and man, that plane looks so good. The Airbus from the cockpit, it looks absolutely amazing. And like I would be very, very excited to see how well the Airbus A380 turns out for the Microsoft Flight Simulator, because again, we need more of the bigger planes in the sim. Especially, I mean, we've had lots of smaller airlines, the narrow bodies like the 73, the Airbus A320 Phoenix, Latin VFR's A321. We got those planes in the sim, but we need the bigger planes in love too, the big wide bodies. They probably need some love too. So I'd be very, very excited to see what they do. Wait for reviews first. You are afraid fly-by-wire stuff messes up. Well, I know fly-by-wire has done an amazing job with their A320. And that big boy gets released, the Emirates community will all over VATSIM. Oh God, yeah, I could absolutely see this getting a Firefly delivery. Absolutely. Maybe we call it the Jumbo Fly. Or something like that. So I was wanting them to make a 747 delivery. Ah, cool little plane today. Yes, this is the Top Runner Soul Ultralight. So far, I'm not dropping frames. So this is very good news. So shout out to Dryson. Another streamer in this community, another friend of the community. Definitely check out his channel. So Dryson, it's great to have you here. I hope you're doing well. So we're touring the city of Berlin, Germany today. Or maybe the successors of the Thunderfly DC6. Maybe that would be the new Thunderfly, but it'd be too huge. But yeah, it's great to see you. Got home from the gym, melting the heat wave. Yeah, the heat's been bad over the past couple days. I know it's calmed down a bit in the last couple days here in the States, but the heat wave is still really, really bad. So in the distance, you can see the Fogo Ranch here in Berlin, and you can definitely see the television tower. That's a very iconic landmark here in the city. So over in this area, if you look to your left, this is Spree Park here in Berlin. Interesting story about this park. This used to be an amusement park back in the 1990s. However, it recently was closed and it was left derelict in the city. And as a result, this was a very well-known place for spooky stuff. Now, it's been closed for quite a while, but they do offer tours. But I heard they're rebuilding the amusement park. So like I said, this is an interesting story about the place. Oh, you're going to visit Berlin later this year? Oh, that would be really cool. I would love to visit the city, especially with all the museums. So we're going to enter to our second UI landmark. This is the Soviet War Memorial here at Tower Park. It's a war memorial and military cemetery here. It was built to the design of Soviet architect Yakov Belopolsky to commemorate the 7,000 of the 800,000 Red Army soldiers who fell in battle in the Battle of Berlin, which was the end of the World War II here in Europe. It opened on May 8, 1949, and serves the Central War Memorial of East Germany during this time. There's the old War Memorial down here. In fact, there were 3 war memorials built here in Berlin during this time. It took 1,200 workers, 200 stonemasons, and 9 sculptors to work in this entire complex. Now, Germany actually maintains and operates and repairs all the war memorials here. And in 2003, the memorial itself went through quite a few renovations and all that. So that is a bit about the memorial here. Unfortunately, the center looks like a water tower, and what should be the building they lean up to the complex, instead are small little buildings. This here is Treptower Park, one of the many city parks here in Berlin. And then we'll cross over the Spree once again. Super Typhon, I got good news. I haven't dropped a single frame yet so far. No frames dropped. This is very exciting news. Yeah, that's nice. You're half an hour in. It is. It's very nice. Hey, Uncle B-Sim channel. Good to see you, Uncle B-Sim. Another good friend of the Biker Strike. Another great member to the community as well. It's great to have you here, Uncle B-Sim. I hope you're doing well. I'm touring the city of Berlin, Germany. Today. So next place is next POI, the Stasi Museum, dedicated and research memorial center to the political system of East Germany. It's located actually at the former HQ of the Stasi itself. So basically, for those who don't know about the Stasi, if you never read your Cold War history, the Stasi was the official state security service of East Germany, the German Democratic Republic, from 1950 to 1990. It is described by many to be one of the most effective and repressive intelligence and secret police services to ever exist. With a massive complex of networks, spy networks, with informants and all that. They've arrested nearly 250,000 people as political prisoners during the entire existence. As a result, they were quite effective as espionage and all that. But it dedicates to the history of the place. In the centerpiece of the museum, down below us, the centerpiece was the office and working quarters of the former Minister of State Security at the time, Erich Michel, and is currently operated by the Anti-Stalinische Action Berlin Normenstab, ASTAB, founded by the civil rights activists in the 1990s. Then the German government took over the Stasi Museum and led to disputes. And currently, the museum attracts nearly 100,000 visitors per year to visit the Stasi Museum here in Berlin. So, very interesting historical stuff. We're going to go this way, and I think we're going to visit our first solo handcrafted POI, actually. And that is Mercedes-Benz Arena. So, yes, there's a Mercedes-Benz Arena here in Berlin. But this one is it's not a football stadium, it's actually an indoor arena, opened in 2008. With 17,000 people, it's home to the Eisbären Berlin Ice Hockey Club and Alba Berlin basketball team. It's often used for other matches, not just for hockey and basketball, but also handball matches. It hosted the 2009 EuroLeague Final Four, which is the European Professional Basketball Club competition. Basically, EuroLeague is like to Europe what the NBA is to the United States. But it's also hosted many different concerts and other stuff, including the Scorpions, Britney Spears, Muse, Iron Maiden, and more have hosted here. Also, esports are held here. Counter-Strike held matches here. Yeah, this is Mercedes-Benz Arena. We're gonna go down and get a snapshot. And I usually have them all in the Discord. Usually post them here. But man, it's a stunning day out here in Berlin. Here's the arena, by the way. Now, it's always Q World, but it used to be Q World Arena. It used to be O2 World Berlin. Here it is. First screenshot for the Discord. And I usually post pics on my Discord every single stream. I usually post them on my Discord on the City Tour stuff, so you guys can always take a look at my pics. It used to be called O2 World back in the day. From 2008 to 2015, it was known as O2 World before it was renamed to Mercedes-Benz Arena. And then right here is the East Side Gallery, which is right next to it. Again, this is actually home to a section of the Berlin Wall. It's a permanent open-air gallery, and it's the longest surviving section of the Berlin Wall. It consists of murals painted directly on a 4,318 meter permanent of the Berlin Wall, and it's actually now in official status as a heritage protected landmark here in Germany, here in Berlin. So this here is the section around 4,000 feet long section of Berlin. I think we just passed it. I think I went past it. I did went past it actually. But you can definitely see there's tons of other museums and places. I just picked the ones I think are most notable. See, right here is the East Side Gallery. This is all section of the Berlin Wall that used to divide Germany. All this is the Berlin Wall. And this is just one section of it too. Just imagine they line up for the rest of the city itself. I mean, isn't that pretty crazy? Just how long that Berlin Wall was. Go ahead and turn around. And of course we're going to make our first stop. We're actually going to make a temporary landing here, but we're going to go to one of the most famous airports, especially if you're back in the 1930s through the 50s. This, for many people, it might just be what people think of the most famous airport in the world back in the day. And guys, you know what airport I'm mentioning, Tempelhof. This airport, it has a legendary status among aviation enthusiasts. This used to be the main international, it used to be a major airport in Berlin. It originally opened back in October 8, 1923. It closed in October 30th, 2008, though there was a lot of controversy about it. It was originally, it was designated as an airport by the Reich Ministry of Transport in 1923. They constructed an old terminal in 1927, though with increasing air traffic, the Nazis rebuilt much of it in the 1930s. And it was one of the three iconic pre-World War II airports in Europe, the other one being the now defunct Croydon Airport in London. And currently the oldest still active around all of it, Paris Le Bourget Airport in Paris. It became even more iconic during the Berlin Airlift in 1948 and 1949. Now, one of the main things about this airport is its distinct canopy style roof over the apron to accommodate most of the airliners of the 1950s, 60s, and early 70s, to protect a lot of the passengers from the elements. Though it is now, after it closed, it became known as a public park, and it's now actually the largest public park here in the city of Berlin. It's currently now been hosting many different fairs and events, including a fashion trade show, sports events like the Berlin Marathon, the FIA Formula E Championship actually raced here in Tempelhof, and now even a creative district. But yeah, Tempelhof is an absolute, hey, you're going to learn how to great flight. Hey, thank you so much, Sergeant Staff, for coming around today. So there's the airport. We're going to make a quick landing here at the famed Tempelhof Airport. In fact, if you guys remember back on my Berlin to Beijing flight, back in December. Yeah, December. When I started this journey, I actually took off here at Tempelhof. Now, of course, it's not an active airport in Microsoft Flight Simulator. They actually removed it, though you can download them on Flights NTO, and you can actually restore it back to being a proper airport. But yeah, it's a very famous international airport. You know what? I wish they would have actually turned Tempelhof into a GA airport. That's what I wish. I wish Tempelhof would have remained a GA airport. Or maybe as a reliever like Falcon Field would be. Like, I wish that Tempelhof would have been like Falcon Field, been a reliever airport. If they need to. So we're just making Tempelhof. So we're now back at Tempelhof. Yeah, it looks perfect for GA. Yeah, as a GA reliever airport, this would be perfect for Berlin. Absolutely. Maybe they should keep that in mind. Yeah, I get why they tore it down though, because they couldn't handle all the traffic. It was kind of outdated. Like I said, I would have loved to see Tempelhof remain as like Falcon Field was. Just update the place, make it like Falcon Field would be. It would be absolutely incredible. But I mean, that just means an aviation kind of guy. So back in the old days, this is where they parked the aircraft usually here at Tempelhof. This is where they did a lot of the parking for the airliners and stuff. They were parked out here. That unique circular thing is kind of unique among all airports. There's not many of those like that today. I miss you, old Tempelhof. Such an iconic airport. So moving on from the sentimentality, from here we're going to be going to Victoria Park. This urban park here opened back in 1894. A very interesting place about this park is it actually used to be a wine growing area. They still grow wine here at Victoria Park here in Berlin. There's actually 2 different vineyards, and they can actually make wine here in Victoria Park. But the thing this place is most famous for is actually the statue, known as the Prussian Monument for the Liberation Wars. This was dedicated in 1821 by Prussian king at the time. The Prussian king, before the unification of Germany, is the principal German monument to the Prussian soldiers who fought for the Liberation Wars against France. Frederick William III initiated its construction. He made it with a piece of cast iron, the last of the neo-Gothic architecture. It's located at Kreuzberg Hill in Victoria Park. The ground plan for the monument contained the Greek cross. And it featured all sorts of different memorials to different battles, including the Battle of Wartburg, the Battle of Paris in 1814, and the Battle of Waterloo as well, or other battles featured here as well. Victoria Park is further out here. Let's see, find our German monument for the Prussians. And by the way, the reason I mentioned why there's so many things about Prussia, well, Prussia's the one that unified all of Germany, and Berlin was the capital of Prussia. So here's our Prussian monument today. So here it is. This is now obviously it doesn't look that good in the sim. But here's our Prussian monument. So, and this here is at Kreuzberg Hill at Victoria Park. And then we get to the German Museum of Technology. The German Museum of Technology, known as in German, is Deutsches Technikmuseum Berlin, is the German name for it. It is a museum of science and technology here in the city. It exhibits a large collection of historical technical artifacts. It was originally emphasized to be a rail transport museum, but now features all sorts of industrial tech. In 2003, it opened both maritime and aviation exhibit halls and its own science center. So they featured all sorts of different locomotives. But they also featured certain aircraft, including the C-47, the Giant Straw pre-World War monoplane plane, the Junkers J-52, and the Arado AR-79 planes. And they featured a lot of other planes here. They featured BF-110 flak cannon, the V1 flying bomb, and they even have the Cessna 172 that Matthias Rust flew in to Moscow Red Square. That's also been featured here at the museum as well. So here's the Technik Museum below us. So here's the Technik Museum down below. So here it is. Here's the Technik Museum below us. So it has all those different exhibits. Then there's the Willy Brandt House. This is the headquarters for one of the German political parties. I don't remember which. I mean, Germany's got quite a few of them. There you go. Just need to stop here for a sec, so I can go ahead and. So this building here. So this building here is actually another one of the many museums here in Berlin. Hey, Delphix. Good to see you, Delphix Photography. Good to see you. So this here is the Jewish Museum of Berlin, known as Jüdisches Museum Berlin. It's the largest Jewish museum in all Europe, which is dedicated to the history of Jews and the experience of the Jewish people here in Germany. It's on 3,500 square meters or 38,000 square feet of floor space. It presents the histories of Jews in Germany from the Middle Ages to present day with new focuses and scenography. There are 3 buildings that make up the Jewish Museum. 2 of them were new additions built for the museum. And it displays the history of Jews in the collections of the museum. From 2001 to 2017, it had over 11 million visitors and is one of the most visited museums in all of Germany. There's all sorts of different exhibitions, including the story of Jews from the beginning to modern day. And that exhibition spans 5 different historical chapters, including the days of the Enlightenment era, the failure, and the present, with the largest space dedicated to, well, you know, the Nazis, because the Nazis didn't exactly like the Jews, and discrimination among the Nazis was terrible, and the Nazis did all sorts of horrible war crimes to the Jewish people. But also dedicated to the relationship to Israel and the Russian-speaking immigration in the 90s as central themes. There's also different other historical tours. There's also different art installations and collections, which includes a lot of ceremonial artwork, fine art, photography, and family memorabilia for the Jews here in Europe. So if you want to learn more about a lot of the Jewish history here in Berlin, in Germany, this would definitely be a great place to learn it from. Oh, I do have the link. It's on Just Fight Facebook. Yeah, it was on MSFN's add-ons. So this is the Jewish Museum here in Berlin. Like I said, Germany has so many. Berlin has so many museums. It's crazy. It's crazy how many museums here the city of Berlin has. The next place we're going to visit is Checkpoint Charlie. So what's so special about Checkpoint Charlie? Well, during the Cold War, this was the most famous crossing point of the Berlin Wall. It was named that by the Western Allies during the Cold War. In fact, this is where the Berlin Wall got built during this time period. And no. Ignore what you guys saw. Okay, here's where Checkpoint Charlie would be located, right here. So this here is Checkpoint Charlie area. In fact, this is where the Berlin Wall got built to prevent a lot of the crossings. And Checkpoint Charlie became a symbol, really, of the Cold War, separated between the East and the West. On June 26, 1963, John F. Kennedy visited here and looked at the platform onto the Berlin Wall during this time. After the dissolution, Checkpoint Charlie became a major tourist attraction. And it's now located in the Allied Museum here in Berlin. Featured all sorts of different checkpoints. And now it's even have its own museum, which is actually not far from here. And there's actually now a museum next to it. Featuring, it's named after the famous checkpoint. In that museum features a lot of related documents about many of the successful escape attempts from East Germany. They include things from hot air balloons to getaway cars, chairlifts, and even, ironically, a miniature U-boat, a miniature submarine, basically. It also lists all the people who died here at the Berlin Wall. It's currently operated by the Mauer Museum Betriebs GmbH, and its director, Alexandra Hildebrandt. There's all sorts of different exhibitions about it, about the Berlin Wall and all that. So definitely a pretty interesting place to check out. So there's more of the Berlin Wall down here. Here we go. So, okay, this is another museum. Yes, lots of museums today, but I mean, we're in Berlin, this city, if you love museums, this is your city. So this is the Topography of Terror, another museum here. But this one is about the Gestapo and the SS. This was actually the site of the buildings which was used by the Nazi regime. It was the SS Reichssecurity main office. The buildings they used to house were destroyed while in the war. But the Topography of Terror was the longest extant segment of the outer wall. The museum opened in 1987 as part of the 750th anniversary of the city, and it featured the cellar of the headquarters of the Gestapo were found here, where many political prisoners were tortured and executed here were found. And it later now turned into a memorial and museum. And it featured all sorts of different exhibitions here. But the main museum opened back in 2010 after a couple of redesigns. But it featured a lot of different permanent exhibitions, including the main permanent exhibition, which was the Gestapo, the SS, and the police of the Third Reich, and all the crimes they committed. They featured all sorts of things they have done. There's also a site tour of the site as well, about the exposed building remnants of the old thing as well. So very interesting history as well. So again, another building about the Nazis, but trust me, the Nazis were among the most evil groups in history. So I don't blame people in... Oh yeah, I need to talk one more thing before we get... I forgot about one more thing. So this area here, let's talk about the Berlin Wall itself, actually. Speaking of which, the Berlin Wall. Well, this was actually built back in 1961 to separate East and West Germany. It lasted all the way to 1989 when the Berlin Wall fell. But it cut off the West from the East Berlin to make sure people escape from East Germany to the West. Before the wall was erected back in 61, 3.5 million East Germans defended from East Germany to the West, so they had to build a wall to separate it, and it lasted all the way to 1989 and prevented almost all immigration. Over 100,000 people attempted to escape, and only 5,000 of them have escaped. A series of revolutions happened in 1989 that caused the fall of the Berlin Wall, mainly in Poland and Hungary. And once the East Bloc fell apart, the Berlin Wall was torn down when it was inspired a lot by Ronald Reagan's speech. Gorbachev tear down this wall back in 1987, and it led to, well, the Berlin Wall being torn apart in 1989, and the last of the major walls torn apart, reuniting West and East Berlin, and eventually the rest of Berlin, not only that unified, the rest of Germany was unified too. So basically the anti-Pentagon for the topography of terror, yes, very much so. It was used by the police state. So this here is where the rest of that Berlin Wall once stood. Okay. So then we're going to visit one of the famous streets here, one of the famous crossings here, Potsdamer Platz. Right here. Right here is Potsdamer Platz. We're right in this big old area here. So this here is Potsdamer Platz. This is the big old area here. On one of the many different big streets here in Berlin. The thing about it, it is a public square and traffic intersection here. After developing the space within a little over a century, it became the most busy bustling traffic intersection in Europe until it was just totally destroyed in World War II. It was left desolate during the Cold War, and then once unified, it's featured a lot of major redevelopment projects have operated here. We have many different buildings here in Berlin during this time. This includes like a Legoland has been built around this area, lots of different streets and residential areas. It was a big meeting point for the Germans back in this time. And then there's a lot of these different crossings here in Berlin. The next one we're going to meet is actually in Market. Is our next one. This is a market. This is a square here in Berlin. Featured the Berlin Concert Hall and the French and German churches here in Berlin. And the center of the square stands a monumental statue of poet Friedrich Schiller. During World War II, most of the buildings here were destroyed. But thankfully, all of them have been restored back to their former glory. I mean, they look absolutely incredible. So there's the French church. There is the Berlin church below us. In the center building, let's see, this is the public square. Like this. Again, I picked up the Discord. I love taking pictures and post them on the Discord because, like I said, I think it's awesome to take these pictures. And in the center building here, this center building is another concert hall. It's a concert house. it's a concert house basically. We have the French church, the German church, and the concert house is what makes these buildings here that in this public square. Pretty cool stuff. Hey Court, good to have you here, my good friend. The Court, how you been doing? I've been doing quite well. I'm touring Berlin today. But here is the famous opera house here in Berlin. I think I have notes for it. I need it. No, I don't. I don't. There's one of the famous opera house. I'm busted up, but you're still alive. Great. So I figured out what happened on last Wednesday's stream. It was actually SimToolkit Pro. So that was my issue. So this area all over here, all this area, this is Humboldt University of Berlin. Now, oh yeah, let me give a shout out to Clark, to another good friend to the community as well. Clark, it's good to have you here. So, Humboldt University of Berlin, well, this used to be this is still one of the great universities here in the city. It opened all the way back in 1810 by Frederick William III, the former King of Prussia at the time. It's the oldest of the 4 universities here in Berlin. There's 9 different faculties, including a medical school, and it has a student enrollment of 32,000 people. And in fact, it used to be regarded as one of the world's preeminent universities for the natural sciences back in the day. This included major breakthroughs in physics and other sciences, with many different professors, including a certain guy named Albert Einstein. You know, the theory of relativity? Yeah, that guy. But he's not the only person who graduated here. There are Nobel Prize laureates, philosophers, sociologists, artists, lawyers, politicians, mathematicians, scientists, and heads of state. And they also include other famous people. Karl Marx, obviously the founder of world communism, the origin. We have the famed Otto von Bismarck, one of the fathers of modern Germany, Otto von Bismarck. W.E.B. Du Bois actually went to school there. And even the Brothers Grimm, you know the guys who made all those fairy tales and folklore, the Brothers Grimm, they actually went to school here. But yeah, lots of very famous people graduating here at the university. Pretty important. And then down below us is the German History Museum. In its German name, it means Deutsches Historisches Museum. History Museum. It's dedicated to the German history of Germany. Mainly, it deals with the enlightenment and understanding of the shared between Germans and Europeans. This specialized library on German and German history contains more than 225,000 volumes, including 13,000 rare books, 40,000 volumes of magazines and newspapers, 5,000 volumes of military documents, and 15,000 museum catalogs of work. All dedicated to German history and much, much more. Here it is. Pretty cool stuff. Now, we don't visit this yet, but I'm going to go ahead and talk about this. So see all of this ahead of us. So all of this ahead of us is actually an island, believe it or not. Let me go. So this is actually Museum Island. All this, so Museum Island. This is where you got a lot of museums. There's some very famous museums here in this island. It's an entire museum complex here in Berlin. It's been around. It was built from 1830 to 1930 by order of different Prussian kings. It's one of the most visited sites here in the city. It features many different museums, including the Altes Museum, Muse Museum, the Art National Gallery, the Bow Museum, and the Pergamon Museum. It also features the reconstructed Berlin Palace, which houses the Humboldt Forum. Since German reunification, all this has been rebuilt, and a new gallery opened in 2019, the James Simon Gallery. In 1999, it is added to the UNESCO World Heritage Site due to its unique testimony of the evolution of the museums. So, in fact, I'll even talk about the specific museums of each, because each of them have something pretty cool and unique. So we're going to go ahead and turn this around. Now, of course, this here was still back in construction. But this actually used to be a very famous palace, actually, located where we're all at. So this place was currently in construction during this time, but they were actually rebuilding one of the most historically important buildings here in Berlin. Yes, the Berlin Palace, actually. It just opened in 2020, which is why it hasn't been rebuilt. But this palace actually has an extremely long history. It was originally constructed back in 1443. And it was completed in 1894. 400 years. This was built for 400 years. But it was the main residence of the House of Hohenzollern from 1443 to 1918. Basically, for you guys who don't know, the Hohenzollern family, they were the kings of Brandenburg and eventually Prussia, and eventually become the kings of the German Empire. They're the ones who helped unify Germany. It was used for many government functions until the fall of the monarchy. In 1918, it was damaged by Allied bombing in World War II, and it was demolished by East Germany in 1950. In the 70s, it was actually but thankfully, after German unification, the palace was finally be rebuilt. In 2013 and finally reopened in 1920. It's good to see the Berlin Palace back up there again. But it featured all sorts of different domes and crosses. And it now hosts a museum, the Humboldt Forum, which is right here in the museum. Pretty cool stuff. Yeah, 451 years. They actually expanded this place, continued building it for 451 years. Trust me, the Germans take a long while to actually rebuild a lot of this area. Where would you go if you had a time machine? Great question. Then next to the Berlin Palace is St. Nicholas's Church. This church is actually the oldest church here in Berlin itself. It's known for its famous two spires. This thing was actually built between 1220 and 1230. It's the oldest church here in Berlin. As well as one of the oldest churches in the city, and this whole area is known as Nicholas's Quarter. So all this is within that as well. And I mean, all of this area is pretty famous. So here's St. Nicholas's Church, built around this area. So there's St. Nicholas's Church. there's the. Then we have the Rhodes Red House, known as the Red State House. Actually, right here. The Rhodes Red House, or the Red City Hall. This town hall here was actually built from 1861 to 1869 in the Northern Italy High Renaissance style. It was the home of the governing mayor and the government at the time, the Senate of the state of Berlin. And the name actually dates from the red facade that was actually built all throughout the state house, right here. So this here is the Rhodes Red House building here. And across from here is the Karl Marx Alley. So the alley was actually a socialist boulevard built between 1952 and 1960 by East Germany. The avenue is around 89 meters wide and 1.2 miles long, with monumental 8-story buildings in the classical style of the Soviets, as well as shops, restaurants, cafes, in an enormous cinema, which is actually currently the home of the Berlin Film Festival, as well. They host a lot of the shops in this area too. So here it is. Here is the Karl Marx Alley. You can definitely see all the old style German housing back in the German times, back with the communists. And most of this was in the wedding cake style, which was very popular among Soviet architects back in the day. So if I were to go anywhere in the time machine port, that's a great question. If I were to be in the, I would probably pop myself into the Victorian era, if I were to pick. Probably Victorian era, probably in the Victorian area. Pretty good. So again, we're back into one of his city parks. This is Volkspark, one of his city parks in the area. Martel, long time no see, Martel. It's been a long time since I've seen you on one of my streams. My good friend, how you been doing? It's been a long time. It's great to see you return over Berlin today. I built tons of slides on my Discord about Berlin. I mean, we already visited the Berlin Wall. We visited Checkpoint Charlie, which were the famous meeting points. Got to fly over Humboldt University and all that. The next place we're visiting is Max Schelming Hall, which is a multi-purpose arena here in Berlin, named after the famous boxer. It's one of the biggest indoor sports arenas here in Berlin. It can hold up from 8,861 people to around 12,000. It was originally planned for the 2000 Summer Olympics, when Berlin tried to bid for it, until it was lost to Sydney. As a pure boxing gym, but now it's transformed into a multifunctional gym, primarily used for boxing and team handball. Although I'm from Germany, you might know more about Berlin than me. Well, I appreciate it. I mean, I put lots of work on this stream. So here is the hall. It also contains a sport arena, a track. So all this is sport areas. So it contains multiple venues. I believe this was used for a lot of the, supposedly be used for the 2000 Summer Olympics. This would have been used. now we're going to visit, probably for many people, probably for a lot of tourists, if you want to start somewhere in Berlin, here's a good place to start. Alexanderplatz, the large public square here in Berlin, with more than 360,000 visitors daily, it is, according to one study, the most visited place in the entire city. It's great for tourists with many different attractions, including the famous TV Tower, the Nikolai Quarter, and the Red City Hall nearby. Oh yeah, Navigraph just had a new thing. And of course, how about probably the most famous building in this entire square, the TV Tower. The third Satrum, Berlin, known as the Berlin Television Tower, translated in English, was actually constructed between 1965 and 1969 by the East Germany. It was intended to be a symbol of communist power and of the city, and it still remains a landmark even to this day. It's still visible throughout some suburban districts and central Berlin. It is currently actually the tallest structure in all of Germany, funnily enough, and the third tallest structure in the entire European Union. It's one of the 4 tallest structures here in Europe. The only building bigger than it is the Travogen Power Station, which is the tallest structure in Europe. It's actually the tallest structure is actually a radio mast, Portera de Gaudomar. But in addition to being its main function with TV and radio broadcast stations, the tower also has a viewing tower and observation deck that goes up to 203 meters, which is around 700 feet, I believe. And after German reunification, it turned into a citywide city of United Berlin, and it's been recently used as a trademark identified with Berlin. It's become one of the most prominent symbols in the country, often seen as an establishment shot for a lot of the films here in Berlin. Hey, Chronicle, good to see you too. A little late again, no worries, my good friend. What airport should I start from? Tango is your closest. Echo Delta Delta Charlie Tango. Yeah, the tower is 1,200 feet tall. It is. Yeah, the tower is just tall. It is tall. But I mean, you get a good view of everything from up top. You have a great view of everything about Berlin from the top of that television tower. You have an amazing view of the city. There's lots of different buildings down here. There's all sorts of churches. There's the St. Mary's Church down here. Then from here, we're going to probably visit. You know, some days you can see as far as 32 miles. Wow. That's an interesting fact, Typhon. But we're actually going to visit another iconic place. And this one is one of the many. It's actually a very famous cathedral. Now, cathedrals can often make a big deal in a city, but we're gonna talk about the Berlin Cathedral. Right here is the famous Berlin Cathedral. This thing is extremely impressive. It's known as Berliner Dome in the German language, but it's more than just an evangelical church. It's also the dynastic tomb of the House of the Hohenzollerns. It was originated as a castle chapel for the Berlin Palace. The current church was built between 1894 to 1905 by German Emperor William II. aka Wilhelm II, the last emperor here in Germany. It is the largest Protestant church in the entire country, and it's one of the most important dynastic tombs here in Europe. As well. But the building's built a few times. Since 1451, it's been built a couple times since 1451, actually, when this thing was originally built. It featured a huge pipe organ as well, with 113 stops and 32-foot pipes. It features many different ensembles with its own concerts and all that. This place was built many, many times. Well, absolutely. Jumping on World of Warcraft. Hey, take care, Quartz. Thank you so much for today's tour. But yeah, this is a very impressive palace. It's a very impressive cathedral. Sorry about that. I had to count my pictures because Discord only allows 10 each, so now we're getting to the meat of, and we're gonna go to Museum Island. I'm gonna talk about each of the museums in the island, actually. So I'm gonna get a picture of, I'll feature all the museums here, right here. Perfect shot. So let's talk about each of the 5 museums on the island. So let's go talk about each of the 5 museums. So the first museum on the island is down below us. This one is Alt Museum. The Alt Museum is known as the Old Museum. Alt means Old Museum. It was actually the original museum in this island, built in 1830. By King Frederick William III of Prussia. It was considered to be the major work of German neoclassical architecture. It's currently home to the Antiken Sammlung as well. And basically, in German, that term actually means, let me translate this. It means, it actually is the collection of antiquities. It is known for lots of antiquities, including fine arts, including old master paintings, prints, and drawings. However, since 1904, the museum has solely housed the collection of classical antiquities, known as Antiken Sammlung, and has displayed its Greek collection, including the treasury on the ground floor of the museum. You see all sorts of different Greek art antiquities and stuff here in the museum. So after that, the second museum here is the New Museum. The New Museum is located here on Museum Island, built in 1843 by King Frederick William IV. This museum unfortunately was destroyed during the Second World War during this time. It was completely ruined. It was restored in 1990. Thankfully, it was restored from 1999 to 2009 by Dave Chipperfield. It's currently home to the Egyptian Museum, the papyrus, the history of papyrus writing, the Museum of Prehistory and Early History, and parts of the Antiquities Museum collection. It again is part of Museum Island. It was actually left as a cave during the post-war period. But it featured all sorts of the collections about Egyptian history. So if you like that, there's that museum. Then we have the Old Art Gallery, built in 1876, and it contains a lot of art collection from the 19th century. All sorts of different art galleries and stuff, featuring works of neoclassical and romantic movements by many different famous artists. But also featuring early modernism as well from some very famous artists like Max Liebermann. as well. So there's lots of paintings and stuff, so if you like their painting as well. And then finally the last major, there are two more museums. Then we have the Pergamon Museum as well. That one is about, it's currently famous to the famous Pergamon altar, which gives it its name, but it's also home to other parts of its collection, including the Islamic Art Museum and the Middle East Museum as well. Feature all sorts of things from the Middle Eastern era, like the Assyrians, Sumerians, and Babylonian culture. And the final museum here is the Bode Museum, the most recent, the second to most recent, opened in 1904. The second most recent museum. This one features the Byzantine collection of Byzantine arts, and also made of sculptures, coins, and medals as well. In fact, this thing also came in the news in 2017 because thieves actually stole the coin, the Big Maple Leaf, which was around 3.7 million euros, and apparently all that was burned. So, yeah. There's the Bode Museum, and that would be the last of the museums here in Museum Island. So that's a little bit of everything about Museum Island. Let's go play over the rest of it. Hey! In soy sauce form, Mamma Mia! Yeah, but we're not in Italy, we're in Berlin. But great to have you here. So here's all the museums in Museum Island. I mean, just imagine 5 museums were built here on this tiny strip of land. They built 5 world-class museums. Just absolutely incredible. So far, my stream's doing quite well. I'm actually only dropping 18 frames for nearly an hour and 30 minutes of stream time. So yeah, it's been really, really smooth. I'm very, very happy to see that. I'm probably not going to use Sim Toolkit Pro until further notice. Until they get an update for it, as I do not want to repeat of both Wednesday and some bits of Friday. I don't want to repeat. Okay, this area around here. So this area around here, right here, this building area here, this is where Hitler actually spent his last days in Berlin. And this is where he actually committed, he actually had to kill himself in order not to be captured by the Soviets. This area here in particular. So now we get to another memorial. This is another one of the memorials here. So this is the memorial to the murdered Jews of Europe. It's actually the Holocaust Memorial here in Berlin. There's some really interesting things about this memorial. First, it was dedicated on May 10th, 2005. It consists of a 19,000 square meter site covered in 2,711 concrete slabs arranged in a grid on a sloping field. Originally it was supposed to be 4,000 slabs, but they can only fit 2,700 of them into the designated areas. So there's also an underground place of information held here underground, and it contains the names of about 3 million Jewish Holocaust victims, and they were obtained by probably the most famous Holocaust museum in Israel, Yad Vashem. But this has been for a long time, but the debates about this have been going on since the late 1980s, what a memorial would look like. Eventually, they had a design competition for it and how it looked until Eisenman's design was built and constructed. There's many different interpretations in all that. But it's a way for people to honor the honor all the victims of the Holocaust, the Jewish victims of the Holocaust. So I think this is definitely a good way as well. Because I'm by accident. Oof. Yeah, really? Yeah, big oof. So yeah, this here is the... So you gotta pay respect to the Jewish victims of the Holocaust. So. There's that. 2,000 slabs fit in this area. Each of them dedicated to the Jewish victims of the Holocaust. So, let's go now visit, well, I think you guys probably know what we're gonna do here. We're gonna actually land, yes, we're gonna land here, because we're gonna talk about probably one of the two most iconic landmarks in the entire city. Oh, medic! There. Okay, pretty good. All right, yeah, this place right here. So this here is the world famous Brandenburg Gate here in Berlin. So Brandenburg Gate, this landmark is absolutely one of the great landmarks. Now there's actually another Brandenburg Gate in Potsdam we're going to be visiting. This one is the one here in Berlin. It was from the 18th century, built on the orders of the Prussian King Frederick William II after restoring Orange's power, suppressing the Dutch unrest. It was one of the best known landmarks here in Germany, built on the site of the former city gate, from Brandenburg to Havel. It is a major symbol of many historical events, and today not only a symbol of the tumultuous history here in Germany, but also throughout European Union and peace. So some interesting things about the design. They actually designed this a lot from the Greek Acropolis during this time, and it's associated with the history of architectural classicism. The top of the gate here is actually a sculpture. It was done by Johann Gottfried Schadow of a quadriga, which basically is a chariot drawn by 4 horses driven by Victoria, the Roman gods of victory. It played a role for much of German history. Napoleon used it first in 1806 when Prussia lost at the Battle of Jena, Austria, and basically when Napoleon marched his army through there. Then the Prussians marched through here for their victory. When the Nazis took power back in the 30s, they used it as a party symbol. The gate actually survived World War II, though it was damaged. It was one of the few damaged structures still standing in the area in 1945. Though there was still badly damaged with bullets in explosions. And one of the horse's head actually survived. And it's actually kept in one of the museums here in Berlin. And then they restored it back in a joint effort. Then after the revolutions, the gate symbolized freedom in the city of Berlin. And of course, the city's also got a lot of history as well. So that is Brandenburg Gate, everyone. So absolutely a symbol of Germany. It's one of the biggest symbols in the entire city. Awesome. And then, right next to it, not far from here, is another Berlin landmark. And there's a lot of them here in the city, but this one here is the Reichstag. So, the Reichstag, so the Reichstag is actually next. Let's see. There we go. Here's the Reichstag. So the Reichstag was actually built originally in 1894 as the house of the Bundestag, the lower house of Germany's parliament. And it was open, and it was actually hosted the Diet until 1930, when it was set on fire. It was actually set on fire in an infamous arson attack. And they had to actually, after the fire, they had to move it to a new area. So as a result, they had to move, and then during World War II in the Battle of Berlin, it was severely damaged by the Soviet Red Army, and it fell into disuse until, even though it was refurbished in the 1960s, it wasn't fully restored until after German unification. And once it was recompleted back in 1999, it became the meeting place for the German parliament, once again. In fact, after the fire happened, the Nazis actually moved to the nearby Kroll Opera House during the time. But the thing that also makes the Reichstag famous is its dome. The dome on top of it will allow you to have a 360-degree view of the cityscape of Berlin. And it's open to visitors. If you register beforehand, you can allow to see the dome up there. But there is the Reichstag. So there is the Reichstag. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to go this way. This is one of the complexes here for the German Parliament building. This includes the Chancellery. This is the Chancellery building. But this is one of the many areas of the German Parliament. It's right here. And there's the German Central Station located to our left. Germany's main central train station. So I hope you guys are enjoying the content so far. If you haven't followed yet, it would be really recommended to follow this channel. If you like this content, do not be afraid to smash that follow button. Every bit of support would be greatly appreciated on today's stream. And once you do that, guys, you should definitely check out the Discord. This is where I put all my future content. I put my slides here. You can get the slides for today's stream. And much more. Then we get to the Natural History Museum of Berlin. This would be the next one. So the natural history of Berlin is actually right below us here. But the German Natural History Museum exhibits a vast range of lost specimens. It's one of the 3 major museums here in Germany, host to over 30 million zoological, paleontological, and mineralogical specimens, including 10,000 different type specimens of different species and all that. However, it's famous for 2 particular exhibits. First was the largest mountain dinosaur in the world, a Giraffatitan. And basically, for that, basically for those who don't know what a Giraffatitan is, basically this dinosaur is massive. Apparently the size of this thing was between 21 to 22 meters long, about 73 feet, and about 40 feet tall, or 12 meters tall. And apparently it's one of the heaviest dinosaurs ever known in history. The other one is actually a well-preserved specimen of the earliest known bird, Archaeopteryx. Archaeopteryx is actually the earliest known bird species. Pretty cool stuff. And then once we hit here, we'll be visiting Berlin's main train station, which is right here. So this is Berlin's central train station, Berlin Hauptbahnhof. It came into operation in 2006. It is the busiest train station here in Germany. A lot of train operations, both short and long distance trains, have been used here, including Intercity Express, Intercity, Regionbahn, S-Bahn, and more have operated trains here at the station. Here in Berlin. And then below us, in front of us, we have the Chancellor Building. The Federal Chancellor is down here. It's the official seat and residence of the German Chancellor, along with the Executive Office. And the building is actually the largest government headquarters in the world. It's featured a modern, largely glazed exterior, and it was constructed in essentially a postmodern style. Though there is traces of modern style, and then next to it is the Haus der Kultur of the World. It was built for international contemporary arts with focuses on non-European cultures, featuring lots of dance, theaters, and more. And one of the statues here is his butterfly effect, which is the heaviest bronze sculpture done by him and weighing nearly 9 tons. Let's get a screenshot of both of them. These are the Chancellery, and they're just the Haus der Kultur of Worlds, built here. So here it is. There's the Chancellery. This is the Haus der Kultur of Worlds. And then we're going, and this here is all a giant park. It is actually Tiergarten. It's a huge city park. And then next one, we're going to visit a very important residence and palace. And you guys are going to like this one. If you love your royal houses, and you guys are going to love this place. And yes, I'm talking about Bellevue, actually. Here it is. And trust me, it's one of the many places in Berlin. Berlin's got tons of royal residences and everything for political stuff. So this here is Bellevue. The Bellevue Palace. This palace is pretty cool. It's the official residence of the President of Germany since 1994. But this building's actually been around since the 1780s. 1786 to be exact. It was designed by architect Michael Philipp Bormann. It was originally as a residence for Prince Augustus Ferdinand of Prussia. This park is well known. It was the first neoclassical building in all of Germany, and it is surrounded by a park that's around 20 hectares. It actually served as the royal and imperial princes of the Hohenzollern dynasty until the German Revolution in 1918. Then it was turned into a guest house by the Nazis. During World War II, it was severely damaged by the strategic bombing and the Battle of Berlin. Then once it was refurbished in the 50s, it served as the secondary residence of the West German president. Then in the 80s, the interior of the palace has been redone. And currently now, it's now part of the President of Germany. And here's something pretty interesting about the standard. So the president, so you see, the President of Germany has its own flag, and it's still, and contrary to a lot of popular belief, the President will stand is flown at the palace even when the President is not in the city of Berlin. It's only lowered when the President takes official residence elsewhere. If he's just on vacation, it still remains his official residence, and the standard is still flown over it. So that's definitely something, and quite a few famous people visit here, including Pope Benedict XIV, Pope Benedict XVI, Barack Obama's visited here and more. I visited this palace. Pretty cool stuff. So another very historic place as well. I mean, Berlin's got a lot of... And this here is the good old Tiergarten. This is Berlin City Park. It's the most popular inner city park. It has over 210 acres of land, 520 acres of size. It's one of the largest urban gardens in all of Germany. And it features spaces for picnics, barbecues, jogging, cycling, field sports, and more. During cold winters, you can even go ice skating in some of the smaller ponds, though not in the big stuff, unfortunately. So there's the Tiergarten. I hope you guys in chat, both the lurkers and the ones who are chatting, I hope you guys are enjoying this stream today. I know I put lots of work into this one. I put tons of slides for this one. It's a complete tour. It's nothing less than what I wanted to show you guys, because I want to let you guys go on one of the BBC tours. So I'm hoping you guys are actually greatly enjoying this. Yeah, Berlin is lovely today for flying. Thanks, Typhon. It is great as always. It's great that, like I said, you guys' feedback is the most important thing for me as a streamer, is your guys' feedback. So we're going to actually visit Germany's first LGBT museum, the Scholz Museum. It is the world's first LGBT museum, dedicated, opened in 1985, focusing on LGBTQ plus history and culture. And this museum features periodicals dating back to 1896. Holds a collection of photographs, videos, films, sound recordings, autographs, artwork, and more, and over 20,000 books related to homosexuality. Now, the reason this is very important is because Berlin is one of the gay capitals of Europe for the LGBT community. So it's quite an important city, and I wasn't expecting Berlin to be the first place to actually have a museum like that. So down here is the museum. Here's the museum down here. So we're going to go back up, flip this way. So in our journey, we only have 31 nautical miles left to go. It's great to always learn something new. Exactly, and I think the whole Gravity series is going to give me new content. And then we're going to fly to one of the oldest landmarks here in Berlin, the Berlin Zoo, actually. So the Berlin Zoo is known as the Zoologischer Garten Berlin, is the oldest and surviving and best known zoo here in Germany. Opened in 1844, covers 35 hectares of land, and with about 1,300 different species of animals. With over 20,000 animals, the zoo provides one of the most comprehensive collections of species anywhere in the world. In 2017, the zoo and its aquarium had more than 3.5 million visitors, making it the most visited zoo in Europe and one of the most popular worldwide. Obviously, its most famous attractions at the zoo include the regular animal feeds, and it's home to quite a few notable animals, including the polar bear and Bao Bao, a polar giant panda that live here in the zoo. It also collaborates with many different universities, research institutes, and other zoos around the world. And this zoo's been around since the 1800s. Now, interesting fact, here's something interesting about the zoo. When World War II happened in the zoo, during Allied bombings, during the first 15 minutes of the Allied bombs in Berlin, 30% of the zoo population was actually killed on the first day, and the aquarium was completely destroyed by a direct hit. Only one elephant survived all of it. However, the most damage to the zoo was the Battle of Berlin, when the zoo was under constant artillery fire from the Red Army. And safety measures forced zookeepers to actually kill the predators and dangerous animals. After the war, only 91 of the 3,000 animals survived. And after the battle, some of the animals have escaped, and some of the animals were killed and eaten by the Red Army soldiers during this time. Then the zoo was quickly rebuilt. As a result. But thankfully it's been rebuilt and it's now one of the world's premier zoos. Featured all sorts of animals like amphibians, birds, reptiles, and more. So definitely some very interesting stuff about the Berlin Zoo. So this is a technology university down below us. Yeah, I agree, Uncle B said. It's always great to learn something new about this world. And I mean, as the Two-Tone Murphy resident researcher for this community, I think it's my job to actually educate people about all the places we fly. So that's extremely important for me. But once we do this, we will complete downtown Berlin once we get to Charlottenburg. So this absolutely is a very famous palace we're going to go to. Charlottenburg is probably considered to remain to be the most famous palace in the city. It was constructed, it started construction in 1695, completed in 1713. It was a Baroque palace featuring much lavish interior decoration in many different styles, meaning the Baroque and Rococo style. It was also featured a large garden around the place, including a belvedere, a mausoleum, theater, and a pavilion. During the Second World War, it was badly damaged, but has since been reconstructed. Its garden is a major tourist attraction to this day. And it featured quite a few burials. Quite a few people have been buried here in the mausoleum. And you can see all the old palace and the gardens around here too. You can visit the Belvedere and all that. So you can definitely check out the place as well. So we're going to go ahead and Charlottenburg is actually a POI landmark here, so we're going to fly around the palace for a bit. Speed a little bit. So here it is, Charlottenburg. There's the big old garden here. One of the many famous areas here in Charlottenburg. You can, and look at this. They don't do these gardens like this anymore, but this is Charlottenburg's gardens. So there's Charlottenburg. We're going to fly around the Royal Palace for a bit. Fly around the palace for a bit. Yeah, this is just beautiful. Look at the scenic garden and everything. I mean, you know how much work it takes to maintain a garden like this? I mean, it takes lots of work to maintain a garden like this with all the artwork and decorations. Just absolutely beautiful area. So finally, we can finally make our second stop. This one we'll just get a quick refuel, and then we'll be back in the air. If anyone wants to join, I'll just take a quick break for a little bit. So this is Berlin Tegel Airport. Echo Delta Delta Tango. This used to be the primary airport in Berlin until Berlin-Brandenburg opened, but it was actually in 2019 the airport used to have over 24 million passengers visit here in 2019, and handled over 60% of all airline passenger traffic to Berlin. It was served as a base during its open time with Eurowings, Ryanair, and EasyJet. However, it was replaced by Berlin-Brandenburg, the new airport, as it saw its last flight on November 8th, 2020, and it was legally decommissioned in 2021. And then it was decommissioned on May 4th as well. It used to open all the way back in 1948 as part of the Cold War era for the Berlin Airlift, but it started commercial flights in April 1st, 1974. Wow. Air France was the first airline service to commemorate regular operations here in Tegel, flying lots of DC-4s, French Sword S Languedoc, and Lockheed Constellation planes flew here in Tegel. Then Tegel was also where the Concorde debuted. January 17, 1976 was debuted here. And then Pan Am used this airport for a lot of their services to JFK, including their big old 747s and 247s as well, 737s as well. And all of this kind of lasted as major airports. Now, once it was closed, they would redevelop the airport as an urban tech park with over 221 acres of land. Thus, they would turn it into a new park. So that's a bit about Tegel Airport, a little bit about this airport. So here's Berlin Tegel. Just quick, I'm going to make a quick touch and go here, and then we'll get back in the air. So this would be a good time for people to join in. So yeah, we don't have much on this journey left to go. We just got to fly to Potsdam, basically, and through the Havel. Let's see how many more slides I got left. Oh. One, two, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 more slides left to go. Only 12 more slides left to go. Yeah, this has been great. I've only dropped 70 frames in 2 hours of streaming. Yeah, 2 hours no lag. Yeah, it was in Toolkit Pro. That was the culprit. Yeah, it confirmed that Toolkit Pro was the culprit for all that lag. I can't believe Chronicles actually took the Pitts. He's actually look like a. There's Tegel. Just a quick touch and go. Stop here. Get back off. I can't believe, Kronka, you're in the volocopter. It says you're pissed, but you're in the volocopter. You're gonna probably run out of fuel soon. So we're gonna go ahead and go straight. We're gonna visit the first landmark here, the Spandau Citadel. It was actually built since the 1560s. It was built for 40 years between 1559 to 1594. It's top of a medieval fort. It was designed to protect the town of Spandau, which is now part of the city of Berlin. In recent years, it's currently been used as a museum and has been a very popular tourist spot. And it's composed of all sorts of different buildings related to defense and housing as well. So some interesting stuff is one of the best preserved Renaissance military structures in Europe. It used to be hosted an open-air concert back in 2005. During World War II, there were quite a few scientists that did some testing on chemical weapons, including nerve gas. The Citadel became part of the state defense during the Battle of Berlin. But the structure itself, as well, it was also scenes from the 1985 film Gotcha. Were filmed here at the Citadel during this time. It also used to be home for its open-air concerts during its own film festival we have held here. So there's the Havel. Citadel, so we should see the Citadel right here. Basically, we're getting near the Havel, actually, so... So the Havel is one of the rivers here in Germany. It's one of the rivers near Brandenburg and all that. But the Havel's been around it actually is about 58 miles. It's one of the tributaries of the River Elbe. Berlin is one of the big cities, but also Potsdam and the rest follow the Havel River. And it's been around since the Greek or Latin times, mainly about the Romans. Okay, there's the Citadel. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like it has much of the photogrammetry and stuff, unfortunately. Don't worry, I'm hitting the Tesla stations between the landmarks. Yeah. we're going to visit the largest stadium here in Berlin, the Olympian Stadium. This stadium was originally constructed for the 1936 Olympics, built by Werner March. At the height of its Olympics, the Olympia Stadium used to host over 100,000 people, but now it has now a permanent capacity of 74,000 feet, making it the largest stadium in Germany for international matches. It's a UEFA Category 4 stadium, making it one of the world's most prestigious venues. And besides using for athletics stadium, it's also used as a football venue, mainly as the home of Hertha BSC. Since 1963, it's hosted matches for the 1974 FIFA World Cup, the 2006 FIFA World Cup, and other events like the 2011 FIFA World Cup and the 2015 UEFA Champions League final. And there have been many notable events. Obviously, the 1936 Olympics. One of the most memorable performances of the 1936 Olympics was the star performance of Jesse Owens, representing the United States of America. It also hosted matches of the 1974 FIFA World Cup. And it's also been hosted lots of concerts, too. Lots of concerts have been held here at Olympia Stadium, too. I thought refill repair hockey machine turner drum. I was wrong. So here it is, Olympia Stadium. Down below us. Big Olympic Stadium. It's all part of the Olympia Park Complex, which is this area here, the Olympic Park Complex. So there is the Olympic Stadium. Big old Olympic Stadium venue. So now we're going to head into Potsdam. So we're going to visit the Grunwald Tower. This is where we're heading to now. So we're not very far from our final stop. We're about 20 miles away, which I know it's going to take a bit of a while on this thing, but like I said, like what Jurassic Park said, life finds a way. Oh, I see Cargo in the Icon A5. That's a much better pick. The A5's a better pick. Careful, my dude. Lots of forest. So, Grunwald Tower is going to be our first location. This tower, or Grunwald term, this historic tower was built in 1879 to 1899, designed by plans by Franz Heinrich Schwechten, with a beam platform around 36 meters high or 118 feet. The tower itself is built in the brick Gothic revival style, and it stands 180 feet high and 79 meters on the 79-meter high hill of Carlsberg Hill. So it's on the shores of the Havel River. Should be checking that out very shortly. So unfortunately, it doesn't really show up in the sim, but in real life, there is the tower. It'd be located down below. So this is where the tower is. Unfortunately, it's a AI-generated building. But man, is this beautiful to have. And next is actually a military museum here. It is actually the Military Museum of Berlin-Gatow. It's a long one. Military History Museum, the Bundeswehr, Flugplatz, Berlin-Gatow. It's the Berlin branch of the Bundeswehr Military Museum, which is the German Army, located here at RAF Gatow Airfield. Features on the history of the German Air Force with over 200,000 items in its collection, including 155 planes, 5,000 uniforms, and 30,000 different books are located at this museum. So we should be approaching RAF Gatow Field. So here it is, guys. This is the Military Museum. You can see the old Gatow Airfield. So history about this old airfield. So RAF Gatow was an old British Air Force base. It was built here in 1935. And then it was used all the way to 1995, actually, before it was turned into this museum. It was used by the British during the Berlin airlift. It helped people escape to the airport from East Germany. So this is the old Gatow Museum right down here. Pretty cool stuff. So from here, let's talk about our city. The next city we're going to head to, Potsdam, actually, or Potsdam. So Potsdam is actually going to be our final city. We're actually going to do two cities because Potsdam is going to be the other one. So this is actually the capital of the German state of Brandenburg with around 183,000 inhabitants. It's part of the Berlin-Brandenburg metropolitan region. But this city is most famous for being the residence of the Prussian kings and the German Kaiser until 1918. Its planning embodied ideas of the Age of Enlightenment through its careful balance of architecture and landscape. It is intended as a picturesque green pastoral dream. This city is actually over 1,000 years old, known for its palaces, lakes, and overall historical and cultural significance. There are many landmarks here, including the palaces of Sanssouci, Germany's largest World Heritage Site, along with other different palaces like the New Palace, the Seelenhof Palace, Schauenhof. It's also famous for being the Potsdam Conference in 1945. In the 19th century, it developed into a center of science in Germany, and now there are 3 public colleges, the University of Potsdam, and more than 30 research institutes in the city. And there are a lot of notable people. All sorts of Prussian kings were from here, but also other people too. Absolutely a very iconic piece of Germany. But yeah, this area here is particularly beautiful. And yeah, Cargo's got the right idea. He's got floats. Yeah, you can definitely win in the water. There's lots of little areas around Potsdam, and there's Mongo in the kickbox. I see Mongo. I think he can hide from me forever. But absolutely beautiful. Oh yeah, you posted. Yeah, thanks, Frontal, for posting the stream links. So yeah, now we're gonna visit the first place, but this one is a very historical one. Die Seelenhof is actually gonna be the first of our palaces here in Potsdam. This was built from 1914 to 1917 in the layout of an English Tudor manor house. It was the last palace built by the House of Hohenzollern that ruled over Prussia until the end of World War I. However, this place is world famous for being the location of the Potsdam Conference, in which leaders of the USSR, United Kingdom, and the US made important decisions that shaped the post-World War II world in Europe and Asia. It's part of the Palace and the Parks of Potsdam in Berlin, UNESCO World Heritage Site since 1990. Its architecture, and apparently this was inspired by the cottage and Tudor styles home that Wilhelm was impressed with in England, mainly in the Bidston Court. So that's what inspired a lot of the court design. Today, parts of this were still being used as a museum and hotel. In 1990, it became a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And it was also used by GE foreign ministers in 2007. And the redesigning exhibition happened in 2012. So that is Die Seelenhof. Hey, Annalisa! Good to see you, Annalisa. My good friend. Yeah, Annalisa, this place here is really cool. So I heard that you met with Murph yesterday on his Firefly meetup in Tipperary. I hope Murph wasn't drinking too much. That's the last thing I would be worried about, is Murph drinking too much. You remember those drunken Egypts? So unfortunately, why would they make it like that? You should know that this place is historically significant during World War II. I've been learning away Viperhead's a little tender. Yeah, I can understand it's a little tender for all the booze. Like, I can drink alcohol, I'm just not a fan of drinking it too much. So there's the Seelenhof. Unfortunately, it's just a building. Then we're going to visit the New Palace. New Palace is next. I've been worried if you wasn't drinking. But the New Palace is next to the palaces. Again, part of the Palace's World Heritage Site. It's located in Sanssouci Park, which is the large park here. It was completed in 1769 under King Frederick II, known as AKA the legendary Frederick the Great. It's the last Great Prussian Baroque palace that was built. It was actually built as a summer residence for the House of Hohenzollern as well. It's also featured by the park. In addition to this, it features domestic quarters, it has kitchens, the three graces holding the crown of Prussia, different jasper and marble, and much more, mosaics. Lots of houses and everything here. We'll be visiting the New Palace pretty soon. Yeah, this area is beautiful. So yeah, you guys got actually 2 cities you get to visit today, and you get to visit a tour of Potsdam and learn about all the palaces around here. I mean, when you're in Europe, there's lots of royal buildings and palaces around here. Your palace is over here. Oh, there's Sanssouci Palace. We'll talk about that in a minute. Singing. Yeah, I've been worried for lawsuits. Oh, thank God I'm not that good a singer. I'm not gonna torture you guys with my singing. So just like that one, it's even worse. It's got nothing. Unfortunately, there's no program tree. Like, Silva should have done a second thing of landmarks and put all these palaces here. Like, I know I may sound like a bore saying, oh, Viper loves royal palaces. But trust me, I have good reason. Those are very important buildings. You guys know that I love historical places. Then we got the Charlottenhof Palace. This is the summer palace, the summer residence of Crown Prince Frederick William, maintained by the Prussian Palaces and Gardens Foundation. This one was built in 1826 and completed in 1829. The architect of the landscape was done by Pierre Joseph Lenné. It features 10 different rooms with intact furniture, but the most distinct room is the tent room that was fashioned after the Roman Caesars tent as well. There's also a lot of the blue-white theme as well. There's Charlottenhof Palace down below us. But then we get to probably the most famous palace, and this one actually has, it's actually handcrafted. It's actually Germany's largest heritage site, Sanssouci. This is the historical building here in Potsdam. It was built by Frederick the Great as a summer palace, often counted among German rivals. It's often rivaled by Versailles in France. It's obviously much smaller than Versailles, obviously, but it too has multiple temples and foliages in the park. It was designed and built between 1745 and 1747. So it's a little more than a one-story villa, more like a chateau than Versailles, but it's still a very important area. During the 19th century, it became the residence of Frederick William IV. And after World War II, it became a popular tourist attraction in East Germany. And following reunification, Frederiksberg was returned back to the palace. And the new tomb overlooking the gardens he created, and it became a World Heritage Site in 1990. More than 2 million pit visitors visit the palace each and every year, featuring the Rococo-style architecture, beautiful gardens, and much, much more. So yeah, this is Sanucci. Very, very impressive. Absolutely. Just stunning. I mean, think about back in the old days, like when people did architects, they furnished a lot of it back then. They did lots of ornaments and furnishing to show the grandeur of a place. When you look at modern architecture nowadays, it looks more modern as it's more a form meets function. Just look at that. Just stunning. Just incredible. Just stunning. So some interesting things about this as well. This thing's also famous is for its Terence Gardens. And the reason that it was Terence was because Frederick the Great actually wanted a vineyard built here. And as a result, he turned the hillside into terraces where he could build vineyards. And then he built a great oriental garden with a giant fountain, which is right here. This is known as the Great Fountain, which was the center of the garden. And it featured marble statues and much, much more. Then there's a park here as well. But you can definitely see the historic landmark in this building. It's absolutely stunning. Then it has its own Brandenburg Gate. This thing also has its own Brandenburg Gate. That was built in the 1700s. Its own Brandenburg Gate that was built in 1770. There's actually 2 different sides, completely designed by 2 different architects, as well. It was intended to prevent desertion and smuggling, because it was used by the city guards as well. So it has its own Brandenburg Gate, but it's nowhere near as iconic as the one in Berlin. Then there's the Nauen Gate. This gate was another city gate here. It was one of the 3 preserved gates of Potsdam. It was one of the first examples of English Gothic Revival architecture in continental Europe. And today, they're very popular with lots of tourist destinations, cafes, restaurants, and bars, and a popular meeting spot for lots of people in Potsdam. Unfortunately, this doesn't really have photogrammetry, but we're still going to tour the area anyway. And finally, we're going to turn this way. This way. Yeah, I can definitely see why. People said, oh, I hear that Berlin is actually one of the more affordable places. Oh yeah, I can definitely see why it's more affordable nowadays, because many people are moving to other areas of the city. The prices have gone down and more people are going to move out of Berlin. But there is one final landmark we're going to be visiting today after this, and I'm going to go ahead and talk about it. It's actually one of Europe's oldest film studios. If you like movies, you're going to like this one. This is Babelsberg Studio, opened back in 1912. Is the second largest old-scale movie film studio in the world, with a total area of 460 square miles. or 5 million square feet, is Europe's largest film studios, and hundreds of films have been filmed there, including Fritz Lang's Metropolis, and Josef von Sternberg's The Blue Angel have been all filmed here. And also more recent productions have made their way to the studio, including V for Vendetta, Captain America Civil War, The Bourne Ultimatum, Valkyrie, The Hunger Games, and more have actually been productions made by the studio. And today, the studio remains operational mainly for feature film productions. It's also acts as a producer of many German productions and co-producer of international high-budget productions. But it has a very long film history, with very famous filmmakers learned there, including Marlene Dietrich, Alfred Hitchcock, and Billy Wilder, began their careers around the world from the studio. There's all sorts of films. I mean, there's so many iconic films as well been produced here in the studio. It's crazy how many films they've made. It's pretty crazy about all you movie buffs out there with love. The studio is back over straight ahead. Then we can just make our quick airport stop. Quick fly over there, and we're gonna be done with the the flight for today. Thank you guys so much for coming along on today's journey. So that was the last slide. I mean, 83 slides for the entire slideshow. It's insane how much work I put into this. So there's the studio down below us. So yeah, guys, plans for the upcoming week. So Wednesday, it would be week 3. It would be week 4 actually of the Orient Express journey from Vienna to Budapest. I'm probably gonna take the Drifter Ultralight for that one, since I'm gonna take that journey with the Drifter, since I didn't get a chance to fly it here. And then on next Sunday, next Sunday is gonna be interesting. Should I go back to Europe? I'll let you guys know what I'm gonna think about doing before the stream. I'm gonna keep it usually a surprise. But if you guys want to be the bet man, it's probably gonna be somewhere else in the United States again. So it would be that. But yeah, that's it. That ends our tour for today. So now we need to land here at Saarbrücken Airport. Echo Delta Charlie Sierra. At Saarbrücken Airport. We can land wherever. It's 3,200 feet, which, I mean, for a plane like this, should have no difficulty landing here at Saarbrücken. I think I love more learning about Berlin was I love doing all the research for all the museums and stuff. I don't have time to look for more devices for Arclights. Do you have a favorite? If you're on Xbox, this is probably your best bet, is this one. The Top Runner. It goes around 40 nautical miles, but this is perfect. So I say Top Runner 103 if you're on Xbox. However, for PC, while this is still great, I think the Ants Airplanes Drifter Ultralight is even better if you're on PC. And you can get that in Sim Market for 15 bucks. For 15 US dollars. Or 15 euro for that if you're European. Yeah, thank you guys so much for coming on to today's stream. I'm really impressed with the turnout today. You guys really came out on and supported this stream. So a massive thank you for everyone. Oh, thank you. On Xbox for a little while, unfortunately. Yeah, but the good news is if you get it on Xbox, Xbox, if you get it from Microsoft Store, you get it on PC. So I recommend the Top Runner Solo 103. So here's playing the Top Runner 103 Solo. So I didn't have time, so that would be the one I recommend getting. It's from Asobo, which means they'll continually update the plane throughout each of the major updates. But man, nearly 3 hours. That's pretty crazy. Nearly. But that's great for your. I know it's really slow, but it's perfect for these shorter city tours or the ones that have so much scenery. Oh, for sure. I'm just missing my free mods. Going from PC to Xbox feels so limiting. Yeah, I completely feel your Chronico. I completely understand, and in fact, I'm hoping with the WASM fixes in 7.8.10 SU10. I think people are gonna add more of the planes that we have on PC to Xbox. I'm really hoping that's a thing, because I actually more than feel you. I want the Xbox people to have more content too. Oh, Uncle B said the WASM fix is still in December. What? Oh no. Now we have to wait till 2023 for the next WASM thing? To 2023 on the Xbox. Yeah, you guys are gonna be waiting to 2023 when all this is gonna get fixed. I don't know, but I think 2023. Here it is, Starmine Airport. We can land whatever one way we want. I mean, we have all the room in the world, especially in this little. There was a small blurb about it. But wow, you guys have been amazing today. Thank you guys so much. So, I think I probably know who I'm thinking about raiding for today. You think consoles could still exist? I think they can still exist, absolutely, considering that not everyone can afford a gaming PC, or even a gaming laptop, even. Like, not everyone can afford that. I think it could be fading out, but it'll take years for it. The narration is awesome, the slideshow as well. Thank you for putting this together. Oh, you're more than welcome, Chronico. Like, I spent a lot of time on it, but I want to give you guys the best content, and I want to give this an authentic touring experience. That's just the way I like it, to give you tours around all the cities and all the landmarks. I think that's the way I want it to do, and that's why I'm wanting to do the content this way. So there it is, Starmine Airport, the final landing for today. Oh, no! Oh! Gosh. Oh, shush. Well, I'm gonna go park next to Chronico. Yeah, that was my fault. At least the good news is EMT it's fine. I landed like 16 knots, it's fine. I got protective gear. It's not the worst thing. At least I didn't die at 100 miles an hour. There we go. Well, that's it, guys. I'm gonna turn off the battery, and that'll get our plane over. So that's it, guys. We got the stream done today. Man, 2 hours and 45 minutes. That's really awesome, guys. Thank you guys so much for today's stream. It turned out Sim Toolkit Pro was the problem in my stream lagging on Wednesday and Friday. So yeah, I won't be using that until further notice. So guys, thank you so much on today's stream. All the people in chat, all the people in lurks. I mean, you guys have all been pretty amazing today. So for the raid, now I'm not raiding Fabio as much as I want to raid the Flying Fabio. I've already raided him on Friday's stream. So I'm probably gonna raid Beemit for today. I think we're gonna raid Beemit. So we're gonna check out her stream. She's flying the Kodiak, an amazing bush plane as well. Thank you guys in chat for all the support. Yeah, I'm hoping to come check out Scruffy Team's channel too. So guys, we're gonna go raid Beemit for today. I hope you guys actually enjoy. We're gonna raid Beemit for today. We've already raided Fabio Friday, so we're gonna raid someone else different. So guys, stick around for the raid and tell Beemit that Viper Strike 95 sent you. Thank you guys so much, and see you guys on Wednesday at Vienna. Take care, everyone.